Good evening. Let me see.
Good evening, Scott.
Hi, Michael. How are you this week?
Doing good. How about you?
Better than last week is all I can really say. uh, on the road to greatness, though. You know how that is. What am I looking for here? Survey monkey. Oops. Search window. All right, 7:02. We're just about ready to get rolling here. Whoop, where's my mic? There it is. Hopefully you can hear me good. Yep, might as well kind of get rolling here. As always, we will proceed our meeting with our little intro. First off, welcoming all of our guests and viewers watching on YouTube later. All of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. All right, close that there. Move that there. um, so I feel like I am staring off into space. I'm looking at my other monitor over here. Earlier in the week, I was functional enough. Well, let me kind of start a little bit first by apologizing that we did not have a meeting last week. It was kind of last minute. I have this ongoing recurring illness. I think we've kind of deemed it as a dual diagnosis of diverticulitis, and I get SIBO, which is an acronym for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So apparently, my stomach and my intestines are trying to kill me. Um, they just kind of refuse to play some days, and that wreaks havoc on the rest of my system, as you could imagine. We're working with my health guide. Don't really go to a medical doctor. She's got her doctorate, I think, in nursing. Um, Organization or something like that. But anyway, very helpful. Guides me to the right medical doctors if I needed to go to them. Also, with kind of a side note on that, I am scheduled in 10 days on the 14th for sinus surgery to repair deviated septum and whatever other kind of digging around they're going to do. So we have asked Kristen Mummert to come on and be our host on I believe that's the 20th, Sunday the 20th, the Sunday after my surgery. Um, my guess is I'll spend a fair amount of it like this, so you can't really see me, depending on how I heal or not. Um, my wife had to know someone who had it done few decades ago, and they went, "Oh, easy peasy." But I kind of visualized myself looking like a raccoon and being all kind of swollen or who knows what. So I'm just a bit of a drama queen on that. Anyhow, that's what happened last week. Was sort of my diverticulitis or whatever. One of those things kicked up and knocks me down. I could almost time it by hours how long I'll be down. It's generally 4 days before I can like eat or drink. So That's my fun. That's what I was doing while you guys were looking for me last Saturday. Do apologize. That was the long version of it. I kind of apologize for the detail, but that's what old people do. They talk about when they're sick, and I'm old, so there is that. I did send a round earlier in the week a link, and we're using an app called Buffer that allows us to post to multiple media sites at one time. The issue is um, it does not help me with the Twitter limitations as far as characters and what you can write in a post, how much you can write into a post. So many of the posts are kind of edited down to more Twitter style, and I for our Facebook and for our Instagram, I will often actually use a shorter Twitter one and a little bit more detailed on the Facebooks, but not feeling quite up to par. I think they're all pretty edited this week. Sending out a link to the what we're calling right now the South Carolina Marijuana Survey 2020. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show that to y'all here. And all right, you should be able to see my main screen over here. What do I have hanging in the background? Close that browser. And I've had a Survey Monkey account for goodness, I couldn't tell you how long. I think I've had it for a couple of years. I've never made a survey before. But last week when we were talking and we were talking about the introduction of the medical marijuana bill 2 years ago in 2019 um, here in South Carolina, and they referred to the Winthrop survey. Um, Senator Tom Davis kind of had mentioned that yes, 80% of South Carolinians want medical marijuana available, but then he follows that up with, but that same number is against recreational. And he's referencing the Winthrop survey. That is, and I'm going to click to another screen here. I believe you can see at the top the link. I don't want to copy that real quick. And let me drop that in the chat real quick. And that is a PDF to the Winthrop poll, September 2016. It is where'd my click go? 23-page document. And in this document, it talks about different issues of the day in 2016 in September, pre-election, pre-presidential election. But as we get down here a few pages, and let's see if I can find where it is. On page 11, it asks 4 marijuana questions. I believe it's 5. Okay, that's the start of the breakdowns by age. So it asks 4 marijuana questions. Do you feel marijuana should or should not be legalized for medical purposes? And I'm not sure if this is a percentage of respondents because the numbers are 101 on a few of them and 100 on the other. But you could pick it should not sure, or refuse to answer. Second one, do you feel that marijuana should or should not be legalized for recreational purposes? Again, the same kind of options. Third one, if marijuana were legalized for medical purposes, do you think it should or should not be regulated by the Food and Drug Administration like current medications? Um, I'm going to come back to that one in a few moments. And then the last question on that list of 4 on the Winthrop survey that the senator was referencing is, do you feel that marijuana use is or is not currently a problem in the area where you live? Um, and I'm not quite sure how 35% of the people or 35 people even think it is. But beyond that, it then has these same questions broken down by age. So should it or should not be legalized for uh, medical purposes. And you can see it does have a high should rating here. 80 percentile in the anybody under 44, um, and slightly lower in the age groups above. When you come to the next question about recreational, the responses don't seem to, let me bring this higher up on my screen. The responses don't seem to jive with what the senator was saying, that 80% are against recreational. If you do look at 65 plus, it's close. It's close, but he isolated out a lot of 44, 40s and 60% to bring that into average. I mean, here, even still, the average should probably a little bit below 80. I'll give him that. Um, so I'm not sure how SurveyMonkey filters. I'm assuming it gives me some similar options when we get our results back. It also in the same document here, respondents by race. So that was the other. And then this just goes into additional analysis of everything involved in the report here. Um, what I wanted to do is at first kind of just copy their format, should or should not. Um, but I had to, for one, come back to, let me get where I was before the age breakdowns and stuff. A third question about the FDA. Personally, I think the question is, oh, what's the right word to use? It's irrelevant. It doesn't apply. I'm just going to say it doesn't apply. Um, I don't know how many of you are aware, but to get FDA approval, the very first step in approval is um, research. And the FDA doesn't do the research. It's the body that's looking to get approval. So many times it's medical university, or it's an industry, medical industry business, um, pharmaceutical company, and they're the ones that are doing the research. The problem is you can't just go and research marijuana without approval of the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency. Um, they control who can research Schedule One drugs, and there's a lot of other drugs that aren't Schedule One that are they're available for research and such, but they're the only ones that are allowed to approve research into marijuana. Um, and they've been on, I think it's over four, are we close to maybe 5 years? Um, I'm going to go on the four plus side, where they said they were going to start approving applications, and they asked people for applications. They received hundreds of applications, and in a 4 year period they have responded to absolutely zero of them, not one whatsoever, um, pro or con. And of the research that's ever been approved by them, 96% has been approved for the purposes of researching the negative effects and impact of marijuana, and only, what I say, 96%, yeah, around there. And I think it's like 4 or 5% that were uh, allowed to be researched for the positive benefits and effects of marijuana, and on the body or whatever. So there's a bias in their approval system. And so, by asking the public, do you think the Food and Drug Administration should regulate it? Well, the obvious answer to most of us, our society here in the U.S., is yes. We think the FDA should be regulating our drugs. But that's where our opposition is using that information to say, well, see, they wanted to regulate it, but it can't be because it's not approved. And they kind of leave it at that, and denying or not addressing the fact that it's the DEA, an enforcement agency, not a medical agency, not a research agency, not a scientific agency in any way, shape, or form, is controlling how and if this substance is being researched. Boom, ting, that's my shit on that one. So I dropped that kind of question from the survey. Um, and instead, can y'all still see my screen okay? Okay. I've switched over to the Survey Monkey survey page here, and I'm up to 6 questions. I don't want to get too far astray from their original 4 questions. I obviously dropped the FDA question because I just do not think that it's relevant. I don't think it's applied. I think that it's just a way to get uh, a data point that then they can utilize in some negative way, and it really doesn't apply. Um, but I've kept them otherwise pretty much the same. I did not capitalize the word not. I did not underline the word should that they had in theirs, and I'm not even sure why somebody would have done that in a non-biased study. It's almost like circle one and X off the other. I don't know what they're trying to do. But anyway, do you feel marijuana should or should not be legalized for medical purposes? I'm wondering maybe because it is a South Carolina survey, so um, real clean and simple. Should not, not sure, refused. Do you believe it should or should not be legalized for recreational purposes? Should not, not sure, refused. Do you feel that possession of an ounce of or less of marijuana should or should not be decriminalized? Should not, not sure, refused. I'm going to look at this. There is a little word bubble here. And why I have that is because one of y'all or one of our followers who may not be watching with us tonight, um, save next question. Let me go back and find, made a comment about that. And I want to see if I can find where the comment was. All right. I can't find it, but I know what the comment was. And their comment was they felt that for medical patients, it should be 4 ounces or less. Um, and I believe when medical legislation will pass, they'll kind of address that and probably have to address legislation with that as well. Um, But the reason we worded it at this point, or I've worded it at this point at 1 ounce or less, is because that is existing South Carolina state law. That is their breaking point, 1 ounce and less, or more than an ounce. Um, and that can be so. What we're looking for when we talk about, what did I put in here? Decriminalization. When we're talking about decriminalization, we're talking about simple possession, carry. Um, and I find it hard to imagine the need in many cases to be carrying more than an ounce for personal consumption. Um, Maybe that's just me. Uh, then again, I really don't have a need for a case of scotch in any way, shape, or form. So, um, but that's just my explanation on why I worded that one on that particular question 3 on decriminalization. Um, any comments or input or thoughts on any of these 3 questions so far? Number 4, we have, do you feel that marijuana at use is or is not currently a problem in the area where you live? And again, that was just another duplicate of one of their questions. So yeah, I switched out their third question of the DEA and switched it to a decriminalized an ounce. Number 5, if medical marijuana was legalized in South Carolina, legislation should or should not allow smokable flower to be available to patients. And on the both next to, I see a comment bubble. Boy, how am I going to go find them comments? Um,
When they talk about smokable flower, they also talk about vapor. Are they talking about rolling a joint?
well, the reason we talk about it as smokable flower is because um, law enforcement. That was their differentiator. Um, My understanding is that whole flower is supposed to be available for medical. I call it smokable because it is. Uh, And what I've actually heard from other advocates and other, even in the medical community, are saying, you know, keep the product in there, just make it illegal to smoke it, because that's what the law enforcement wants as their key to be able to unlock a criminal arrest over a medical use. Um, where was I going with this? I just saw a comment that sidetracked me here a second. Um, so yeah, their comments generally that I've heard from some of these other advocates is, keep it in, and because vaping should be an option, and uh, and then go home and close your doors and pull your blinds and consume as you will consume. Um, and that's kind of easy to say in some circumstances, but there's people that may live in a room of a boarding home or something like that, and then you have a neighbor smells it, and so they call the police because they smell burning marijuana, and now this is a crime going on, and so that's why again, a little explanation on why I call it smokable. I wouldn't. The only other I think word I would kind of think best describes it would be whole flower. Um, Anybody's thought on maybe rewording the question to, instead of allow smokable hemp, just or smokable flower, make it whole flower, cannabis flower? Oh, I just saw the button. I should have been pushed it a second ago. Cancel that. It's set that you even have is even to question. Oh, it's sad that it's even a question. Um, would not allow. What did I say? Cannabis flower. Thank you, Michael. I think I actually like that way that reads better. What do you think? Nod of the head.
I
Close.
agree. I have to go back and really look at the what the definitions are for whole plant, whole flower. I don't get to smoke for a couple more years, so
Yeah. Well, we will word that to allow cannabis flower because that is a pretty darn accurate description of what we're looking for. Um, like I say, that people their option to smoke it or not smoke it. How are you going to take whole cannabis flower and make it not smokable without probably doing bad things to the medicine to begin with? And we have a comment from Lowcountry Cannabis on the next question. The should medical marijuana in South Carolina. Why can I not see the rest of that? Sorry about that. If it's legalized in South Carolina, legalization should or should not permit patients to home grow. Okay, that's what that was. That's the home grow question. Um, and our commenter says that home grows and micro licensing, it's essential that those are imperative. Those are permitted. Uh, Watching the grow technology amazes me. I don't know if I'd be able to grow the way I see some people, some of these people's beautiful plants that I see. Uh, but I definitely believe that people should be allowed to home grow, and that's my thought. So I agree with that, and was something that I get asked a lot by other advocates, or not even asked, kind of demanded. We have to have home grow option for medical or for South Carolina. Um, uh, I didn't think of any other questions beyond those six. So if any of you kind of reviewed these as you were able to earlier in the week, I'm going to turn off my share for a moment. and had any other questions maybe that we should add to the poll. Like I said, I wanted to try and keep it relatively similar and relatively similar to the Winthrop survey, and relatively clean and simple. I mean, maybe one you suggest I actually delete one or two of the questions and take it back to four again. Um, thoughts, input, coffee time. Should we get some coffee?
Are you going to disperse the survey?
We are going to disperse pretty much any way, shape, and form that we know how to on our social media, asking everybody else to kind of do the same. Um, beyond that, I'm not sure. The Winthrop survey got. I don't have it in front of me. Around 485 respondents, if I remember correctly, total. Um, I'm sorry, 694. Um, South Carolina residents that responded. And I'm not sure exactly, like, again, how they promoted it. I'd almost like to do this where, if we can do a letter writing campaign to, like, newspapers, letter to the editor, to try and get the public to respond. Hey, I saw this letter in the editor to go and respond to a marijuana survey, and went and so kind of do that to get spread it around the state. But as much as we can to ask just all of our other advocates to spread the word on this and share the link on their sites. Hey, let's find out. Let's see if we can get 694 respondents. So we're looking a little bit more at apples to apples, or hey, if we can get a bigger chunk, that'd be great. Of course, 694 to me is a pie in the sky number, because we don't always get strong respondents, and um, and kind of go from there. How to kind of keep it contained within just South Carolina by the respondents. I think there's like settings on it in the survey. Are you a South Carolina resident? Or I don't know if we have to precursor that, but I would assume so. Um, so I'm still playing with that, but the big push really for us is we use this buffer to hit our social media, just kind of keep plugging it away. Hey, share this link, go in and fill out this marijuana survey. What do you think marijuana should look like in South Carolina in the upcoming legislation, or something like that? Um, because I want it to be fresher than the one they used they used a 2-year old document 2 years ago. So now this will be a pretty fresh document. If we have this, some sort of completion by the end of January, I'd like to see. So it's just a big push to on our social media. We'll probably mention it in our newsletter each month. May even send a couple of direct emails solely for that purpose. Actually, that's probably. I'm glad you're listening to all this. I've got you lined up for Kristen, and and to push for that to see if we can do our own survey, see if we can get some semblance of similarity to theirs. Um, See if the numbers have changed. We know the numbers change here in South Carolina. Um, Unfortunately, again, this week I saw another comment from somebody who said, "Yep, moved out of South Carolina 2 years ago. I couldn't be happier." And I'm like, it's hard to fight the fight when the soldiers are, well, they're not soldiers, they're freaking citizens, but the citizens that you're fighting for are go, well, have fun with that. I'm going over to here where I don't have to deal with that bullshit. Uh, but hey, if you love Charleston, what you gonna do? Gotta stay and fight the fight. They say love it or leave it. No, you can change it. You don't have to leave it. Um, any other thoughts on distribution, on how to get the activity on this? I'm hoping. I mean, now we are not the Winthrop University, so I don't know. Oh well, of course we have our friends at College of Charleston. We'll have our SSDP kids helping us somehow or another, and they may have some interesting access through the college for us to share the the survey with the college community. Um, Otherwise, I don't have any other options for it. No on the street gathering for info. Actually, could do that with an iPad. Um, but we'll see. We'll see anything that we kind of can put together. Um, I. But yeah, my hope is if we can get close to their number, if we can get close to 700 respondents, I would be absolutely thrilled. Just because that would give us a pretty comparative demographic size wise. Um, and again, I don't know. They show like on their age and race, but they don't necessarily show where in the state that they were. Where I'm not sure where Winthrop University is. Can anybody tell me?
I think it's in Rock Hill. Just
I was
on
gonna
a
say. Oh, I
Yeah, I
got
think
it.
she's right. Rock Hill area.
Rock Hill. Okay. Um, it's probably a little bit more. Yeah, right there. It's just Rock Hill. Um, Probably not as blue of an area per se as Charleston is, but of course we're just a big blue dot in the whole red state. Um, Gosh, do I have a slow computer? And without knowing, ooh, they're way in the upstate. Okay, yeah, they're almost up at the border. Um, we're not sure their distribution of those 700 respondents throughout the state either. So yeah, we may get completely different numbers because I have a feeling, just like our similar activity with the letter campaign, um, we had a heavier response from right in our the Low Country area. Because I think a lot more people that saw it are from our area, so we might get drastically different results. So if I can get similar numbers, that to me is at least a big plus. Well, we can say, well, we're comparing numbers to numbers, and we tried our best to scatter it throughout the whole state because that's what we will definitely do. Um, I don't know how active any of the other normal chapters are. I share to their pages some from time to time, and I hope members in those areas see what we're doing and act on it. Um, we were doing some call out posts this past week or two where Kristen had drafted up some call outs to people saying, hey, have you folks from Columbia participated in our letter campaign to ask our candidates what their position is on marijuana yet? Hey, you folks over there in such and such, and we sort of like tried to call out different communities, uh, and I thought that was very effective, at least what I saw on the little bit of back end. um, Total on that campaign, we've gotten 25 respondents, including at least one, well, just one from me. Uh, we're going to probably run that through the end of this week. I plan on posting one or two more, maybe three more shout outs. Actually, I'll probably call up more of these shout outs, call outs to different communities. Hey, don't forget, ask your candidates. But after this coming Sunday's and the following, probably the next following week, it'll take for national to kind of compile any data if we get any, or it might take even uh, the candidates that long, to fill some of these things out, and then for us to get it compiled. So we're going to run that portion of the letter campaign through the week. After that, we'll sort of stop that letter drive um, for for allowing that to culminate, and then we'll promote the Smoke to Vote Voters Guide for South Carolina in the 2 weeks coming up to the election. Check the voters' guide, see if your candidate has a grade, see if they lean in the same direction. and we'll promote the voters guide through November 3rd, which is coming out. Mentioning that date, I do apologize to anybody who may have seen a post I posted this week that said October 3rd was the final day to register to vote in South Carolina. That was a bit of misinformation on my point. You could vote, I think, register in person through the second, Friday the 2nd. Online, I think you can actually continue to register through the rest of today. Um, at scvotes.org. So yes, if you missed the third and you saw that, you can actually still, I think, go register. Um, all right. Follow up on that. We do, are expecting the elections to be interesting, if nothing else. I am working the polls that day at one of the local precincts. Uh, I started working the polls about 3 elections ago here in the Charleston area, and the 3 elections that I have worked, one I think was a primary for a district seat, uh, district senate. I don't know. I think it was district house seat, one of the house seat, um, and then there was the runoff for the Democratic from that primary. The two Democratic candidates were, I guess, close enough to do a runoff, so that was a runoff. And then there was the special election to cover that particular seat, so they could get somebody in that seat as an incumbent. So now they're on the general election in November. But those 3 that I have worked were teeny tiny single district elections. Actually, no, there was one that we covered 2 districts because there was something else in District 119. But I have not seen the brunt of the burden of a general election yet. I've stood in line at one at the local high school down the street from me where I vote, and you kind of stand in line outside till you finally got inside, and then you turned away from where you were supposed to go so you could loop all the way down the hallway and back, and then into the cafeteria area and zigzag and blah blah blah. I haven't seen that where I've been. I get, if I think the last one we had 50 people throughout the entire day at tops. Um, we have had some where I saw a couple of hundred people, but I've never seen one where there's been thousands of people and they've been lined up. And I'm told I won't be in the little recreation room that I've been in the past few times. We're moving to their cafeteria and probably doing the same thing I see at the local high school. Um, and so that should be interesting. That should be fun. And this is already a hot topic. Election for us coming up next month at all levels. You guys know the level I work at here is looking at our state and federal legislators at the most part and their marijuana positions and policies, and we will continue to do that moving forward into the next year. Um, but hang on, enjoy the ride. This will be a fun election. Let's see, my share is off. Everything's here. Uh, I will kind of ask, since I see Kristen still on with us, or not ask so much as mention. I'm looking forward to you actually hosting one of these meetings on the 20th. Um, if you come up with a topic that you want us to promote or to talk about, let me know and I'll help you get the word out there. Um, or if you have, like you had suggested before, we've been doing, if there's a link or a document or something that we want to kind of review before the meeting, let us know. Joey, I saw earlier. That's the comment that confused, that distracted me from some other conversation. We were talking about possession and how much you can carry. Joey in our chat window said that California, he thinks, is about 8 ounces you can get around away with carrying or having on your person. That'd be a happy afternoon for me. That's for sure. I would be feeling very little pain. Um, I, I'm assuming that would be, well, if it's possession, it's possession, carrying on your person or hiding in your footlocker. But it just sort of reminds me of a story, and I may have told it to y'all before, and I'm going to kind of ramble this on before I wrap up the meeting. But that a couple of years ago, I was watching Judge Judy's show, and Judge Judy tends to amuse me quite a bit. But there happened to be I'm guessing it was the defendant at that point that she was scolding because they had an ounce of marijuana on them, and she's like, "Yeah, Mr. Defendant, that's an awful lot of marijuana." And she starts scolding about this like huge amount of marijuana, and I'm thinking, as I referenced a little earlier, if I saw somebody with a bottle of scotch, I would think to myself, that's an awful lot of scotch. My mother was a scotch drinker when I was a child, and me, I swore she was drinking perfume. I don't know how people drink scotch, and I'm sorry if you're a scotch drinker and love it. I don't understand. Um, but to me, a bottle of scotch would be a lifetime supply, and apparently to Judge Judy, an ounce of marijuana would be about a lifetime supply. but uh, but 8 ounces would definitely be a happy afternoon. So with that, I think I'm just going to wrap things up for tonight. I don't have a target topic for next week. Um, I will try and share something at least by Wednesday or something that will give a link to some sort of topic or thought, and get the event up there on our Facebook page. Um, and outside of that, I will be looking forward to seeing you all back here next Sunday at 7 p.m. If you need to contact me, it's Lowcountry Normal, NORML, at gmail.com, or NORMLSC.org. Love to hear from you. Have a great week. Thanks for joining.